Welcome to Marangray, a cursed Conlang. If you don't already know me, I'm Osric, a volcano and geology nerd who likes languages. So yeah, feel free to ask me about volcanoes. But yeah, being a geology student, the optional rock theme excites me. Anyways, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I started getting suggested a lot of videos about submissions to Agma Schwa's cursed Conlang Circus 2. A lot of videos. I'd never heard of Agma Schwa, his Conlang Circus, or anyone making these videos. Naturally, I decided to join in. This is my submission. So the things I wanted for my language were for it to have a possible legible writing system based on existing Unicode characters, phonology possible for humans to pronounce, and a sentence structure and grammar possible for humans to use. But I also wanted to make them the worst. Yet truly the worst. Though, one note, I did want to still make them theoretically possible to be used by humans, while causing as much emotional damage as possible to both the speaker and any listeners. I started off with the writing system. I knew from the start that I wanted an abugida because I like abugidas. They're personally my favourite writing system. For those of you who don't know, an abugida is a script in which consonants and vowels are written as a singular unit rather than having the vowels separate, like an alphabet, or only sometimes or never represented, like in an abjad. Specifically, the vowel is a secondary feature on the glyph of the consonant on the consonant, modifying a consonant symbol to show the vowel. Some abugidas include Devanagari, Gi'ez, Inuktitut, and Tana. These are a few examples of how abugidas can work with the vowel modifying the consonant. As you can see with Devanagari, the vowels are represented by a diacritic on the consonant, whereas in Inuktitut, the vowel is represented by the orientation of the letter. Obviously, I also want it to be weird and kind of silly, because that's kind of the point of this competition. I thought emojis might work well if I could find the right ones to use, and thus, ta-da! Glorious, isn't it? I thought clock emojis were a great, terrible way of doing an abugida, given each character is similar to each other, and there's different times throughout the day in which the minute hands will be the same, but the hour hands will be different. Now, I had to figure out the sounds to make it as fantastically horrific as possible. I'll show the vowel sounds first, given they're slightly easier to take in than the consonants, and they're both easier for me to pronounce isolated than most of the vowels. As you can see, both vowels are diphthongs. The clocks that represent the time at each hour have the vowel sound as A, and those at the half hours have the vowel sound hlsh. A is easy enough, but hlsh is for sure not a traditional vowel by any definition, but it can theoretically function as one, and since it's neither efficient nor easy for a normal, non-insane person to use as a vowel, that's exactly what I'm going to use it for. And here are the full letters, including consonants. Gle, re, 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 a, le, angre, re, fe, fnge, and yay. I'm not going to bother doing some of the hlsh sounds right now because, well, yeah, I just can't bother, so just wait a few slides, I guess. Also, yes, I mispronounced some of them. Several of these sounds are not used in any languages I speak, and I haven't learned how to use all of them yet, so we just have to live with that. The next thing that we need to understand the language before we move on to anything else is genders. My language is a gendered language, like Spanish or German, and has 6 grammatical genders. The genders are masculine mature animate, feminine mature animate, neuter mature animate, immature animate, sundry animate, and inanimate. Or in other words, men, women, non-binary adults, children, animals, and inanimate objects. Up until someone's 18th birthday, their gender is immature animate, and after that they decide which mature animate gender is best applicable to them. If you want to be rude about someone, you can refer to them using sundry animate gender, and if someone is dead, you refer to them using inanimate gender. One thing to note is that while inanimate objects normally are of the inanimate noun class, they aren't always, and can be of any noun class. Animals are almost always of the sundry animate noun class, however, unless they are dead. Likewise, humans are always of one of the four other animate noun classes, unless they are dead, but when referring to humans as a species, use sundry animate noun class. Noun gender is very important in Marangray for reasons that I'll get back to later. I'll get back to it after pronouns. This is the pronoun chart. Like with the letters, I'll slowly fill it out so it's slightly less daunting. We'll start by filling in the positions that are empty. That's a nice simple start. Let's go on to first person pronouns. So, now we've got some of our first words in Marangray. Let's read them out. The first person singular pronoun for humans of any gender is Fingayilsh. Animals and inanimate objects don't have a first person pronoun given that they don't speak. One thing to note though is in Marangray, birds that talk like parrots and budgerjars are actually considered non-binary adults for grammatical purposes if the individual bird is known to speak. Marangray also has clusivity, so its first person inclusive and exclusive plural pronouns are respectively Fingayilsh and Okay, time for second person pronouns. The three adult human genders share a single second person pronoun, Children and animals share because children deserve as little respect as animals do. For context, that's a joke, and I actually believe both animals and children deserve just as much respect as any adult. The pronoun distinction in Marangray is because both children and animals are viewed as innocent by nature. We also have for the human second person plural pronoun and for the animate second person pronoun. Finally, for the behemoth third person pronoun column. I'm just going to read out each of the third person pronouns in turn because as of this upcoming number, the script is currently over 1,000 words long so far, and it's going to be a lot longer. So the masculine mature animate is aklsh. The feminine mature animate is lshklsh. The neuter mature animate is unglshklsh. The immature animate is unvreichklsh. The sundry animate is tleiklsh. The inanimate is volshklsh. Human plural is unglshklsh. And animate plural and inanimate plural are both unglshklsh. Now, you may be wondering what those extra 3 mysterious columns are. Those, my dear friends, are each pronoun's rock meaning. So in Marangray, each pronoun is a homonym for a different type of rock. The first person pronouns are all sedimentary rocks, sandstone, limestone, and dolomite. The second person pronouns are metamorphic rocks, schist, shale, gneiss, and slate. The third person singular pronouns are all extrusive igneous rocks, aka volcanic rocks. Basalt, rhyolite, andesite, foidite, phonolite, and trachyte. The third person plural pronouns are intrusive igneous rocks, aka plutonic rocks, granite and sienite. Marangray also has a fourth person pronoun, which is they a yulsh, which has the rock meaning of migmatite, which is an interesting rock that is sort of the partway point between a metamorphic rock and an igneous rock. It's a rock deformed in very high temperature and high pressure conditions, so much so that some minerals in it have melted and recrystallized, but not all of them. Taking from the pronouns, this is where I got the name Marangray for the language from. The first 4 letters of the word together are the first person plural possessive. In plain language, it means our. The last 3 letters mean speech or language. Together, it means our language. It's pronounced, and I'm going to butcher this, and I'm going to butcher it slowly. Speakers often call it which means language, And it's where I grabbed the English name from by butchering the pronunciation how I'd imagine it might be done. If you can't tell, I'm very good at butchering pronunciations. Okay, back to genders. Time for some syntax. Gender and syntax generally aren't a common combination, I think, but earlier I did say that I want a truly terrible grammar for my language. This is how it's coming through. For those of you who don't know, different languages can have different sentence structures based on where in the sentence the subject, object, and the verb go. English is an SVO language, which means the subject comes first, verb comes second, and object comes last. Let's take an example sentence. Cats eat birds. This is SVO, since cats is the subject, eat is the verb, and birds is the object. Here's how that sentence would look if English used a different sentence structure for each of the other 5 potential structures. An example of a language which uses a different structure is Hindi, which uses SOV sentence structure. In Hindi, that sentence is Biliyan Pakshiyon Ko Khati Hain, which word for word basically means cats, birds to eat are. I started doing a bit of research into which would be the worst structure to use. Eventually, I realized something. The worst one to use is all of them. There are 6 possible sentence structures and 6 genders in Marangray. Naturally, I came to the conclusion that the gender of the subject in a sentence should determine the structure of the sentence. This has the unfortunate, or perhaps fortunate, side effect of allowing some sentences to be really ambiguous depending on the genders of the subject and object in the sentence. For example, if I was to say, the man hit the car, because the man is masculine, mature, animate, it would be said as the car the man hit. However, since the car is inanimate, it would also be said as the car the man hit, if it was the car hit the man. I'm not going to bother with most of the syntax stuff beyond what I've already covered, but I have decided to show off the 3 main possible noun phrase structures and verb structure. The first and third ones are like what we have in English, with a normal noun phrase and a pronoun noun phrase. The second one, however, has the noun at the front. In Marangray, you put the determiner and the adjective phrase before the noun in all situations, except for when the noun is a rock. If the noun is a rock or a type of rock, then the noun comes first, because I'm a geology student and rocks are important. With verbs, the verb just goes at the end, everything else comes first, obviously unless there's a prepositional phrase. I'm not including the noun phrase of the verb phrase because, as per the last slide, it can move around depending on the subject gender. Okay, now that that's all over and done with, we can move on to the required translation. The required text for me to translate is, according to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bee should be able to fly. Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground. The bee, of course, flies anyway, because bees don't care what humans think is impossible. So, I changed the sentence structure of each of these sentences to suit my language. So here's the rewritten structures, and please ignore the graphs. They're heavily simplified. They're not professional in any capacity. All known aviation laws, bees should not have flying ability according. Are its wings too small for ground its body leaving? The bee obviously anyways flies because bees don't care about humans' possibility beliefs. Technically in the translation, it's impossibility rather than possibility, but having it in English doesn't sound as good in that context, so I just put it as possibility. Okay. Time for the proper translation. Let's do this. Fingulshe, Fengulshe, Lay, Rulsh, Pulsh, and Rulsh, Vulsh, Ray, Ulsh, Vulsh, 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 Ray, AK, Lay, Rulsh, Rulsh, Fulsh, Vulsh, Glush, Fulsh, Yulsh, Ngay, Yulsh, Gay, Just lay. They. A. Rules. Rivers. Rain. Rules. They. Rules. Gij. Rules. Rules. Veils. Rain. Rules. Rules. Marangray. Rules. Jij. Wij. Groes. Wij eils, grijels, grus, druls, vrij, eilos, vrij, grij, vus, vrij, dls, dlij, los, grij, vingijels, ruls, Marangray, Fruus, Leils, Fingers, Gij, Klus, Ruls, Marangray, Bivels. Alright, that was fun. Also kind of exhausting. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching and suffering through this with me. If you made your own language for this competition, I wish you all the best. My Discord and Twitter links are in the description for anyone who's interested. I'm always up for a chat. Also linked is Nga's announcement video for this competition. Alright, I'll see you later.